Hello, all you lovely people, and welcome back to another episode on the channel. So today we are starting off with a push session. So today is a push focus, as you may have guessed. We're starting off with a bench press. So just some kind of notes here on the actual bench press itself. You will see that I have these two blue mats underneath it. The reason I am actually using these blue mats here is, well, first of all, it's going to give that bench a little bit more width. I'm also benching in a tank top, so using these mats is going to allow for me to get a little bit better grip on the actual bench itself, because my upper back gets quite sweaty, especially when you're training in like near 30-degree heat. So that's another reason. So the third reason is that they are going to actually adjust the rack height. So this bench here, it is, non-adjustable, so there's only 3 settings here that I can use, and if I'm using those 2 little pads, they're going to give a few extra centimeters of range, I suppose, and that means that I'm going to be able to unrack from more comfortable rack height. And when I generally don't use these pads, unracking is a lot more uncomfortable, so that's kind of the main reason I'm using these. So essentially allow me to unrack the bar a little bit easier, a little bit safer, increase the width of the pad to support my back so I can have a stronger upper back position, as well as so I don't slip on the actual bench itself. I work up to a set of 130 for 6 here, I believe. Start at 122 and just added 2.5 kilo per set. So I did 4 sets here on the bench. I'm quite enjoying these. No specific reasons for using flats for the bench, other than the fact that I just didn't bring my heels or my lifters with me over to Spain, because they just take up a lot of room in the bag, and considering I only really use them for bench pressing, there's no real point in bringing them over. And funnily enough, actually benching the flats on this bench feels quite nice. I feel like I can still get a decent amount of leg drive from it. I can keep my heels on the ground. It's strange because, I mean, the bench is not hugely different in terms of the actual height of the bench itself. So yeah, bench is actually feeling quite good. Now, I'm very much aware that I am using fake plates, as we would call them in abs. Because yeah, commercial gym plates can be around 1 to 4 kilos off, believe it or not. They're not calibrated like they would be in abs or when you're in competition. In competition, plates are usually weighed to within 10 grams, whereas yeah, they're not really kind of standardized with commercial gym plates. So after my bench press was done, I got onto some cuffed cable flies. So just attaching the cuff just above the elbow joint, or sorry, just below the elbow joint actually. So the reason I'm using this as opposed to machine chest fly in this session is just to reduce any kind of loading on the wrist and elbow, and so I can just focus on driving that upper arm across the body. I did 4 sets, or 3 sets here actually, and in the 8 to 12 rep range. So following the actual bench press itself did allow me to fatigue the chest fibers a little bit further without actually having to worry about, triceps or front delt involvement kind of taking over. Because yeah, with the bench press, I mean, you are using your triceps, you're using your delts, so they could potentially fatigue before your chest does, for example. So if I'm trying to keep it in line with the actual kind of nature of this actual session, which is a push session and it's more of a kind of chest focus, I am going to try to limit any extra involvement in a movement like this from the likes of the anterior delt or the tricep. It's going to be a better variation to use this or machine versus dumbbell, because generally with the dumbbell there's going to be no resistance in that top portion as you start to stack the joints. So you're going to get a lot more kind of challenge in the short position here, and you wouldn't have gotten that with the bench press either. You're going to be challenging the chest in a more mid to lengthen range in the bench press too, not a huge amount of challenge in short. So after those, I had some front presses. I had some shoulder press on the plate loaded incline. You'll have seen that I did have some D handles under the stoppers. The reason for that being is just to make it a little bit more comfortable getting into that start position, so that I don't have an excessive degree of like my hand coming below my shoulder. I want to kind of start in that starting position with my hand just slightly above my shoulder. So while I can adjust the seat to accomplish that, just adding in those little D handles there just will facilitate a little bit more range and a little bit of a kind of safer lift off point. So 2 sets shown there, but I did 4. I don't want to show you all the sets because I do have some other things to go through towards the end of the video in regards to the new training program. After that, we have a pronated grip T-bar row. So this is meant to be a rear delt focus. So the rear delt focus is going to have an overhand position. Also going to be a bit of upper back focus too, because I'm allowing myself to thoracically flex and extend here. And if you're going to be looking to train your upper back, training the upper back is going to be facilitated through doing thoracic flexion and extension, because the likes of the scapula is going to be the scapula essentially facilitates that, okay, through the role of protraction and retraction. That essentially is upper back, quote unquote. Okay, so after the T-bar row is finished with the upper back emphasis, or the rear delt emphasis even, I did some pullovers. So this is a machine pullover. I do quite enjoy this actual machine itself, although it is a little bit light, so I don't know how long I will be able to kind of have it in the plan, because I'm pretty much 2 or 3 plates away from stacking the machine. So one reason I like this versus the dumbbell variation is, with the dumbbell variation you get a huge amount of challenge towards, like, you know, the end range, like, you know, when your arms are fully your arms are like overhead, so to speak. You get a good stretch in the lats for sure. However, you don't get a huge amount of challenge in short. So as I'm driving my elbows down into my side, that is when the lats are starting to shorten the most. However, you don't really get that with the likes of a dumbbell. If you're lying flat on a bench and you are doing that movement and you bring it over the course of the chest, you're not really going to be shortening the lats. Probably you're going to get more of a chest challenge, to be honest. So that's kind of why I have this movement in here, and it's a little bit easier to set up than the cables. But, you know, in time when I do eventually stack this machine, I probably will end up switching over to the cables. So yeah, I had 4 sets here, and then finally I finished the session with some overhead overhead tricep extensions. I'm not editing these voiceovers anymore, it takes me way too long, so apologies if I am making some kind of blunders, but, you know, bear with me. So I am using these daisy chains here essentially to extend the training arm. So if it's to use a regular rope, the rope would probably be a little bit too short, and I wouldn't be able to get as much kind of end range flexion or extension within the movement. Again, I'm using the cuffs here just to allow me to just push through the back of the hand and take out any kind of grip from the aspect, from the exercise. Because if you're using a rope, like, realistically you're going to be holding that rope pretty hard, you're going to be gripping it pretty hard, and I don't necessarily want to be doing that here. I want to just really be focused on the triceps. To be honest, I'm going to probably swap this over to a single arm, because I did start to feel one arm taking over more than the other. And as always, we're going to finish off our workout with a bit of a flex. Why not make everybody else in the gym feel a little bit uncomfortable? Because, you know, that's what you do when you're a bodybuilder. You take off your clothes and flex in the gym, or at least that's what I think bodybuilders do. I have no idea. Maybe that's just what I do because I'm vain. Who knows? But yeah, happy with how the conditions coming in. Definitely seeing more kind of feathers pop up. So yeah, the next few weeks are going to be very, very interesting. Post-training recovery sorted.
What is up, people? So we are back from the gym. I hope you enjoyed the push session. It's taken me about 4 or 5 takes to be able to say that. I want to discuss the actual training plan today. So the overall split is going to be an upper, lower, and full body. Well, actually, for the sake of ease, I've been running lower, upper, rest, and then full body, and then I'll rest again, okay? And to be honest, I'm pretty much sticking with a similar schedule to what I was doing in Ireland. The leg session on the Tuesday is essentially meant to be more of a kind of quad focused. However, it's not really. I'm pretty much doing equal quad and hamstring volume in that session realistically. Then with the upper session, which I was doing already, similar enough in terms of a delta and arm session, I'm now doing push. The third day, which is then going to be a more kind of posterior focused leg day, which again, it's not really, it's pretty much equivalent volume, if not a little bit more towards the quads on that day. And then on the Friday, I am doing a pull session, which is obviously for most of your pulling movements. There is some kind of pushing movements in there too, but it's a pull bias. And then on the full body day, which is a Sunday, I'm sticking with a similar format to what I was doing anyway on a Sunday. So I'm starting off with heavy squats and doing some bench press, and then some more kind of just machine work, isolation work. That is kind of how I have the week split up at the moment. And the reason I am keeping it that way as well, first of all, I just like that kind of flow of training. If I do lower, upper, that kind of gives me enough time between each session to be fully recovered for the following leg session or for the following upper body session. As well, it's not too far what I've been doing already. Because when I was doing the old program on a Tuesday, I was kind of seeing that as more of a leg day, like starting off with the squat and some form of deadlift, and then the Wednesday was already like, you know, upper body session, which is mostly kind of pushing and arms. So it's not really a huge kind of change to what I was doing. It's just more so the exercise selection and the rep ranges has changed. So yeah, it's a 5-day training split. I've got 2 rest days, so I'm keeping them as a Monday and a Saturday. Well, again, that's more so because that's the way I was training originally. I did have Saturday and a Monday off anyway, but it just works really, really well on my schedule. Monday is a very busy day for me with check-ins. I prefer not to be in the gym for about 2 hours that day and just be able to get through my work. And then on a Saturday, it's kind of a nice day to have off, because usually on a Saturday, I will do some work that I didn't get done during the week. So that could be setting up new clients. It could be doing some content planning. Could be editing these YouTube videos, for example, and as well as, but I'm not really doing anything like, you know, client specific. I'm not doing like check-ins on that day, and so I usually have to work my work finished by maybe, like, you know, afternoon, and then I can enjoy the rest of the day. Especially being over here for the next couple of weeks, like myself and Emma are looking to actually try to do something different at the weekends versus just working and, you know, going to the pool and go for a walk. Because we do that enough Monday through Friday. So that is essentially how my rest days are planned out. So one of those days is obviously a little bit more stressful with the Monday. However, you know, I'm over in a very low stress environment. Like, I don't really feel stressed at all anymore. It's amazing what the weather can do. So that's essentially how I'm approaching the rest days. So the last point we're going to touch on here is just my overall volume. So you can see here on the left, my old volume for the old program and then the new program. So it has went down by about 2 sets. There's not a huge amount of change. To be honest, like, I do feel like I'm recovering quite well. I don't necessarily feel too beat up, and I think that has something to do with the fact that the way we are deloading, we're deloading quite often. So Brad essentially had me running staggered deloads. Now, I have never done this before, so it's completely new to me. So it'll be interesting to see how it kind of works out. So the way the staggered deloading is working is that 1 week I'll be deloading my upper body and 1 week I'll be deloading my lower body, and then we will have three weeks of full volume training, and then every 4th week there will essentially be a deload for either the upper body or the lower body. So say for example this week I'm running a lower body deload, and the previous week I did full volume training, then the previous week to that I did upper body deload. Okay, so it's a bit of a new system to me, and to be honest, like, I'm not going to second guess my coach, you know, the kind of way. I'm going to follow the plan to the T. I'm paying Brad, I'm paying 3DMJ for a reason. I want to learn from them. I'm very open-minded. You know, I didn't necessarily think too much of doing high days at the start. However, obviously I'm enjoying them quite a bit now. So, I'm keeping a very open mind. However, they wouldn't have been something that I would have thought to do, mainly because during a deload, I would think that the idea would be to reduce fatigue overall. Because if you're still going in and still kind of training some area of your body still hard, surely there will still be some residual fatigue being built up systemically anyway. So that'd be my kind of thought process around that. Now, potentially there could be some merit to it, and to be fair, I feel pretty good. Again, as I mentioned, whether that's the new location, whether that is the low stress, whether that is the weights being literally lighter in the gym that we're in, who knows? But I'm feeling good so far, even though I am I've lost considerable amount of body fat over the last few weeks. So yeah, I'll kind of keep on following the plan. In terms of actual training itself, I'm really enjoying training. So I am really enjoying this split at the moment. I'm enjoying the break. I'm enjoying the break from seeing everything through the lens of a powerlifter. I still obviously do have a lot of SPD movements in the plan at the moment, benching twice per week, deadlifting twice per week, squatting twice per week. However, I'm enjoying separating myself almost from the powerlifting club in a sense, by being away, because I'm not necessarily training around, I'm not necessarily training around people who are, really kind of focused on just powerlifting at the moment, which I kind of needed because I was still kind of very much in the kind of powerlifting mindset, and seeing everybody progress at such astronomical rates like they do in abs, which is a credit to the coaching down there, is it's hard because I'm not necessarily progressing. While I'm getting stronger relatively, my focus is just not the same. So it is a kind of nice little shift. I am very much enjoying, as I mentioned, the more kind of bodybuilding kind of approach. One question I was asked is am I using an RIR or am I using a training to failure style? And for the most part, on a lot of my compound lifts, I am using a more RIR based approach, because if I am pushing the likes of the compound lifts, the ones that require high degree of me being stable, a high degree of good coordination and bracing, if I'm pushing those too close to failure too often, especially as my leverage has changed and I get decreased body fat, it's just going to be very hard for me to recover from. However, with the likes of the more isolated movements, the maybe cable-based movements, single arm movements, machine-based movements, I'm a little bit more confident to push them a little bit closer to failure, especially with the kind of smaller muscle groups biceps, triceps, delts, calves, even on quads on leg extension, or hamstrings on a hamstring curl. Because there's such a high degree of external stability within the actual machine setting, because the muscles themselves, when you're just working them in isolation, are they're not as taxing as a whole body squat would be. So yeah, I'm a little bit happier to push those type of isolations a little bit closer to failure. So that pretty much wraps up today's video. It could have been a little bit long-winded there at the end, just as I went through the plan. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next week.